faceoff. Shoots it, deflected, right in. Pietrangelo save, rebound. Stastny stopped by Pietrangelo. I don't believe that save. Neither does Peter Stastny. He can't believe the save that Pietrangelo just made on him as Frankie Sparkly. Now that maneuver there to stop and rob Peter Stastny. He should get 5 to 10 for that.
Hello and welcome to episode 30 of Tendy Talk, presented by the BLPA Podcast Network. This week I chat with Dave Scioscia of 32 Hockey. Dave has been playing hockey most of his life, but didn't start playing goalie until he was an adult when his wife, who had never played hockey before, wanted to start playing. The only way for the two of them to be on a team together is if Dave put on the pads. Well, Dave caught the goalie bug and has been playing for a number of years now, and he's picked up the skill of refurbishing and painting goalie masks. Without further ado, let's get to the conversation. Dave, thanks for joining me. It's fun to have you on the podcast and fun to talk to other goalies and meet new ones.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Doing a lot right now, so very good to be here. It's the first time ever on a podcast, so.
Well, the good news is you shouldn't be worried. It's just two goalies talking hockey.
Sounds good to me, man.
Yeah, as I've talked to some other folks, it always feels like just talking to another goalie in the locker room after a skate.
Yeah.
So
I had a bad one the other day.
That's no fun. But then again, a good day on the ice is better than a bad day at the office.
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Are they making you guys wear masks on the ice like they are here in Minnesota?
No, we don't have to.
Oh,
we only have to wear it going into the rink.
Yeah, I would be okay with that because I've got the CCM Game On one that goes over the nose, and breathing isn't that bad with it. I'm not gonna lie, because it's off the mouth. It's just getting water. You got to lift the mask to get water. You can't just squirt it through the cage, and then it obstructs the view when you look down. So yeah, there's a minor adjustment.
I could imagine because I wear glasses, so it'd be even horrible for me.
Yeah,
if I had to play with the mask on.
Yeah, so I think it's almost like skating with that X tracker that goes on the cage that some goalies wear in practice to focus on tracking. So I just keep telling myself when I can.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep, I just keep telling myself when I get to take that thing off, my tracking is going to be phenomenal. So.
Yeah. I mean, the rinks they're opening up a little here. We get to go into some locker rooms in some places. Some places you still got to sit outside. The last rink I was at, you still had to sit outside. So
yeah, they keep telling us we're supposed to sit out in the common area and get ready. Goalies are allowed to bring a bag in, and they're giving us a little more grace, but we only can come in 15 minutes before the skate. A few rinks are giving goalies a little extra time. Oddly enough, the one rink I've been to that let us use the locker room was also the one that I walked in 16 or 17 minutes before the skate, and they turned me away. They're like, nope, 15 minutes before. I was like,
yeah.
Looking at my watch, like if we argue long enough, it'll be 15 minutes.
Yeah, the first time I went to a rink a couple of weeks ago, I haven't been to in a while. They're like, you can only come in a half hour. I was like 35 minutes till game time, and I was like, I had to walk all the way back, pouring rain in my car, so they wouldn't let us stay inside.
After the first shutdown, I play my league games at the Super Rink, and they were making it like a half hour before or whatnot, and I showed up. It's just me as a goalie, and there was a high school kid working the gate, and he can't come in yet. You got to wait, and it's like. I'm an old beer league goalie. Like, come on. And, the only reason I put up a little bit of a fight is because the high school kid working the gate wasn't wearing their mask while telling me I couldn't go into a locker room by myself for safety reasons. As I'm wearing my mask, I just sent a message to the guy that runs the league, like, hey, I'm fine with the half hour thing. I get it, but can you at least have the people enforcing it wear their masks? He goes, oh Lord. Yeah. He goes, he even said, I've tried telling these kids that beer league goalies are fine because they're going to sit in the locker room by themselves until 15 minutes before the game without a pandemic going on.
Yeah.
He's like, they they don't understand that those rules are really for, the youth hockey players, where they all show up an hour before and mess around and locker box and all that other stuff we used to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Always fun.
So, we talk about things we always used to do. How did you get started in hockey and, discover the sport?
I started playing actually here in Jersey when I was 4 years old as a skater.
Okay.
So I played my whole life as just a skater. I played roller hockey. Tried out for professional roller hockey a couple times when it was still around.
Yeah.
Never made the team because they always have the teams made before.
Oh yeah.
So I played roller hockey for about 5-6 years. And then I gave it a rest, and I came back when I met my wife around 15 years ago, and she wanted to play hockey. So the only way I could play with her is if I started playing goalie.
And she had never played hockey at this point.
No, she had never played hockey. It was a beginner league down in Brandon, Florida when we lived in Florida.
So why did she all of a sudden want to start skating?
Because, I started skating out, and she's like, I really always wanted to play hockey. Mm-hmm. So it was the greatest thing. I said, yeah, and they had an actual beginner league where everybody was terrible.
Yep.
And it just went from there. She played a couple seasons, and then she wasn't able to play anymore. But the whole goalie thing just kept going. I just kept getting put on teams and higher levels. And, it was just all for fun. I just exploded.
Yeah. So you pick up playing goalie just so that you could play on a team with your wife. Were you worried when you were putting on the pads the first time, or were you excited about it? Did you always kind of secretly want to do it, or what?
I think I did, because you always played street hockey goalie as a kid. Everybody took a turn at street hockey goalie, but never on ice. But yeah, I was nervous. I had some old Heatons. I pieced together what I could afford at the time, and my pads were too small, my gloves were too, but it fit to me, so I just went out there and played. It really didn't matter, because everybody was terrible at that time.
Yep. Well, and as the USA Hockey goalie program they have going on right now, they say catch a puck, catch the bug, and it sounds like that's exactly what happened for you.
Yeah, kind of did, and it's just exploded all over itself.
Yeah. So
I went from that to upper levels, so that was always.
What was the hardest part, do you think, transitioning from skater to goalie as an adult? Because I think a lot of goalies, we start out as skaters, but we make that transition a lot earlier in life. What do you think it was as an adult that made it difficult?
Well, because you never had anybody teach you how to play. So it wasn't like I was going out there and having a hockey coach, teaching me how to play goal, and you just had to kind of put it together yourself. I eventually, learned everything myself. Ended up a couple of years ago taking a 3-day goalie class, and it helped a lot. Just things that you don't really know about.
Yep.
But it was just kind of a fluke thing that happened. A friend couldn't go to a hockey camp, and he couldn't get a refund. He was like, "I need somebody to take this ticket." And he called me. He's like, "Why don't you go for goal?" Because I wanted to play a better style goalie. So, but just a new style, from going from stand up when you're, the way we play when a kid, and these new style pads. Yep. But now I feel like I got it pretty much down. I can't play in the upper levels anymore. They just destroy me.
Yeah, I'm starting to get to the point where I ask myself, can my body keep playing at the higher levels when called upon, or do I have to start saying no? It's not that I can't keep up, but it's more so the morning after, where the back is a little sore, or it kind of feel like the Tin Man getting out of bed.
Oh yeah, I'm going on 50 years old, so just happy that I'm still playing.
Yeah, so
I don't skate out very much. So
I was having this discussion with a old college teammate of mine a couple of weeks ago, when we actually got to skate for the first time since we graduated almost 20 years ago, and we were talking about young goalies and how they have something we never had, and that was so much information at their fingertips for learning the position. YouTube videos, all this stuff on the internet that we didn't even have the internet as kids when we were learning.
No, no internet.
How instrumental were these tools to you as you were picking up the position and trying to learn about it? Because I'm going to guess, like most goalies, once you caught that bug, it's I want to learn more. I want to get better. You see somebody doing something in the game, and how do they do that? And you go to Google and try and figure it out.
I was more. I didn't go on the internet too much. I just watch a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
I watch how the goalies are positioning themselves, like the positioning stuff on a page. Just showing you where position you're supposed to be and where is more of what I did than watching it on Google.
Yep.
Like learning how the butterfly and just seeing pictures of myself and seeing what I did wrong. That was mainly the way I learned it. I don't really like going on the internet so much, for stuff like that, where you got to kind of watch and learn by just trying it out.
Absolutely. And, there is something to that I think younger goalies are missing, of just watching games and going out there and trying it. There's a lot of them that are almost overstructured these days. I think back to the 90s, and you could identify a goaltender by their stance. Today, that most of them look the same. There's a few you could say, that's Marc-Andre Fleury by his stance. Corey Crawford, you could tell that was him by his wide stance. But for the most part, they all kind of look the same. Here in Minnesota, the high school hockey tournament's going on right now, and I was watching some games yesterday, and the kids, they all looked the same in the net. Now their skill level may have been a little bit different, but their stance all looked the same. And I almost think from a shooter standpoint, that makes it easier. It's almost like going on the same goalie every time.
Yes.
In that regard, it's just how fast is his glove. But when, you think back to a guy like Kelly Rudy or Mike Vernon, who they stood there with their legs together. As a shooter, you got to think of that. But then you'd go in on a guy like Belfour, where growing up in Chicago, there was the joke that, Eddie Belfour had a hairy situation today, walked out of the Chicago stadium in front of a CTA bus, but don't worry, it went right through his legs because he had that great big 5-hole. I almost think as a shooter, when everything's the same, it probably would make it easier.
Still, when I skate out, a lot of these goalies, like, you just know, let's not shoot down on the ice. You just know you got to shoot up. And that's the one thing that's taken away from the game is, everybody, they're starting to pickpocket them now in the NHL. You see them just start to do them crazy shots up in the corners, and they're all going in now.
Yep.
So it's time that I think the goalies' ways are going to change again here soon.
Yeah, I know Kevin Weeks has been a big not proponent or advocate, but spoken against that RVH an awful lot, saying there's a place for it, but people are using it way too much and in the wrong situations. Yes. That's where you're seeing those high shots go in. It is kind of fun in the beer leagues. You can always tell that older skater who used to be a goalie, because they might not be very good, but they tend to know when and where to shoot. Got one of those guys on my team.
I've got one on my one team. We have one of the coaches, and when I played against him, he would just pick me apart, and he'd go, well, I know every time I'm going to shoot to this one place, and it's going to go in. It doesn't matter who you are.
Yep.
It's going to go in.
Goalies, when they skate out, are notorious for shooting through traffic, because we know if we can't see the goalie can't see the shooter. So that's a great time. It might not make its way to the net, but it's a great opportunity to put pucks on the net. That's what we were taught as kids.
Yeah. That's what I used to do. Just sit in front of the net and wait for them rebounds to come out.
Exactly. Unless you don't enjoy getting beat up for being in front of the net.
Yeah. I kind of had fun doing that, though. I was I was a big fan of Eric Lindros coming up, and that big style. Even though I wasn't big, I tried to play that big style.
Yeah.
In front of the net, crashing, going hard to the net all the time. So that was what made hockey fun for me. I still play that style, but I'm not one of those guys who would be puck handling all over the place. I was just north south, get to the net, get a shot on net.
Yeah, the few times I've skated out, that's me. I'm just going right to the net, and if I don't have the puck, I'm trying to get in front of it to create traffic and be a pest. God, I had a thought and it left my mind. I blame it on goalie brain there. So, aside from playing, that I think really how you and I connected is because of your love of goaltending, you started refurbishing goalie masks. On your website, it's because you wanted a nice mask without having to pay the price for a brand new one. What's that journey been like of learning how to refurbish a mask?
It's been a long 4 years. I've had a lot of people help me out. A lot of big painters, like Ron Slater. Mm-hmm. I called him up about a month or two ago and I said, hey, I want to try to do your Tuukka Rask mask. Do you mind? And he says, no, give it a shot. And I picked his brain along the way. It didn't come out exactly like his, but nothing ever will. And stuff like that is what made it fun for me. I have 5 kids. So if I sit there and say, I'm going to go and pay somebody $900 to paint my mask is like, just throwing away money.
Yep. Well, and I'm the same way too as a dad. I've only got 2 kids. But there's just something about when you're a dad, spending any kind of money on yourself, you feel guilty. Although if your kid said, hey, I need this, $900 paint job on my mask, you'd be like, sure. Seems legit. So, but you said something there that I really appreciate. Before going and replicating the Rask mask, you reached out to the creator of it and said, can I do this? And it's a small gesture that I think a lot of goalies don't even think about, because at the end of the day, the mask painter is an artist. And there are copyright laws that do cover them if they ever wanted to come after folks. But I just think that's the right way to do it is, reach out to the guy. And a lot of these mask painters that I've talked to, if they can't do it themselves because they're busy, which a lot of them are, they go, yeah, why not? Imitation's flattery, but at least ask the permission. And I appreciate that you did that.
Yeah, I try to do that as much as possible. A lot of the painters won't respond to you though, because they're so busy, but I try to keep my stuff because when I learned, I didn't, like I was saying, I didn't have the money. So I just went out and bought an airbrush. Yeah. And, I used to get ridiculed on Goalie Gear Sluts United, like over pictures of masks I put on there. As I say, hey, at least I'm trying. Yeah. And I didn't give up, just because people made fun of me, I just kept going. Next thing I know, I was doing a Lundqvist mask and I was doing this mask and a Jonathan Quick mask. And Jonathan Quick mask probably took me 15 tries to get it even close. Mm-hmm. And, it's a simple mask, but it's so hard to lay out. And, you don't see how much time and effort these guys put in. Everybody's like, oh, well, that paint job is this much. That paint job is that much. Well, it takes a lot of time. Mm-hmm. Like the Tuukka Rask one took me over 30 hours just to paint. Yep.
I had the opportunity to talk to Todd Miska a number of years back in his shop. And I think a lot of goalies take for granted what goes into having a mask painted. It's not just a simple, sit there and freehand airbrush. There's a lot of fine detail work that goes into those things.
Yes, a lot of tape, a lot of prep work. I do my mask a little different than everybody else. A lot of people use like filler primer where they have to sand. I don't do that. I use it's just a flat primer. Basically, it's not something you sand, and it doesn't fill the holes. So I have to sand these masks until they're ready for paint. Okay. If I need a filler, I can use some kind of epoxy. I've got a little nick here or there and gel coat, and it just takes hours. And a lot of people are like, well, I think that's too much for that mask. And I said, well, you got to think from my point of view. You know, I'm here for hours doing this.
Yeah.
And I charge less than most people, but I keep everything simple. Like I do designs that aren't going to take me hours and hours and hours.
Right.
If they want to pay for design, it's going to take me hours and hours, then they're going to have to pay for it.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, and I've said it before on the podcast, I'm a fan of the simple designs anyway. You know, I'm in the camp that I should be able to know what's on that mask sitting in the stands. I shouldn't have to be right up on top of it. Now, there are exceptions. I do appreciate the ones that have that image from afar. Marty Brodeur's later masks in New Jersey are a perfect example. Still had that iconic Marty Brodeur look, but when you got close, there were pieces on there that were special to him. I think that's cool, but some of these masks where there's just so much going on, it's like I got to be on top of it to know what the mask is.
Exactly.
Sometimes, but I think you're starting to see that pendulum swing back to the simplicity.
Yes.
Which is fun to see. I know Dave Ark gets a bad rap sometimes for going over the top. I think he's wildly talented and creative, but I've seen his stuff start to come back, which is good to see because that's how he started out, and he had some great masks. I mean, the Johan Hedberg one that put him on the map is one of my all-time favorites.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, Marc-Andre Fleury, the gold mask that he wears for the Vegas for the Knights. Yeah. That was probably, I love that mask. And I tried it twice, and I have a partner, Tress Armstrong. He does all the gold foil. So I'll paint the masks and I'll send it to California for Tress to do the foil. Yeah. And then he'll send it back to me and I'll finish it up. And it was probably one of the most beautiful masks that we ever put together. And, you know, I sold it, but it was like, I didn't want to, but I can't keep everything that I have here, you know, because certainly now that I work with a mask maker, I work with Sean Schroeder from California. And then I also work for somebody from Russia. His name is VRT Goalie Masks. He's starting to make masks for the KHL. Yeah. He has the women's leagues over there. He has a couple masks over there, and they're improving their masks. Their masks are just getting better and better. And I have the first gen, and he'll paint whatever I want on. And like, if you want a custom mask that I can't do, I'll just say, here, do this mask for me. And he'll put the mask together, whatever level mask you need, paint it and send it over here. It takes like 2 months to get here, but it's well worth the wait.
Right. Absolutely. And somebody who's had concussions and bought a new mask a couple of years ago, you know, the quality of the masks are important. And I think a lot of them now have come a long way. You know, just in little things. A lot of them will look the same. A lot of them will have kind of that Bauer look, but there's a reason for that. You know, the originator of it put a lot of time and effort into studying, you know, the physics of the puck impact. So it's been interesting having talked to Don Strauss, who clearly created a different mask that was fantastic in its own right. But it's interesting that to me that masks have always kind of had one similar look, with the exception of the armadillo. You know, the Chubberly behind you, not Miska, Warwick masks, to Bauer and CCM and Warrior, all of them, they have a similar look. That, again, the armadillo is the only one that didn't have that look, but there's a reason for that, I think.
Yeah, he had a plan when he did that, and you know, that's such a sought after mask. Yep. You can barely get your hands on them now.
Yeah, well, it was his background in auto racing, and knowing that now, I can see that influence of an, you know, racing helmet adapted for goaltending in it, you know.
Yeah, less obstruction to it. Yeah.
Exactly. So when you're refurbishing a mask, what is the thing you see most often that needs attention to, that goalies just don't spend any time, you know, where if they, after every couple of skates, just did this or that, could make a big difference?
You know, a lot of these guys, they don't put their helmets in bags, you know, and they pay $1,000 for a brand new mask to play in high level, and they just throw them around.
Yeah.
And you get so much chipping. Like the chin, they're not made to be thrown across a room or hit with a puck. You know, like they're there. I mean, they're meant to be hit with a puck, but you know, if the impact hits it hard, they just get a chip and they just keep going.
Yep.
And instead of thinking, hey, maybe I should have this checked out. No, a lot of these guys just keep going until the mask is completely junk. And, you know, where I had to actually cut the chin off of a mask a couple times.
Yeah.
Just to make it into that mage style mask.
Yeah. Well, I think of Richter when he had that giant chunk of the Lady Liberty out of his mask that one season. And the whole time I'm sitting there going, can't they get him a new one?
Yeah. It's something about a mask that you just don't want to change them. You know, once you find that comfortable mask, and they're making the foams better and better so they fit better and feel better. Like the VRT foam I found is kind of a cross between that old yellow foam and the new black foam. So it's very soft, very comfortable to wear. And they sent me one for me to wear. And they've upgraded that since I've met them. They asked me for different opinions on masks, what they should do different. And it's all coming together where they're making the mask. It's same. It's almost exactly the same as a Bauer mold, but little changes like in the chin. You know, how do you stop that chin from breaking? You know, and how backs aren't going to be chipping. Less holes in the mask itself. Instead of having those big vents in the back for your straps, that the straps just clip underneath the foam to the back plate. And it's just things like that. You know, when you're absorbing a puck, you know, the less holes you have, the less impact it's going to make, you know, in cracking your mask.
Yep.
Any weak area in the mask.
Even the new Bauer mask where I don't even think it's an actual foam that they use, but the padding they have in there, the way it just comes out, you know, with a few screws as opposed to, you know, the old style, like the mask
Gluing it in
over my shoulder, the gluing it in, where there were times where it's like, all right, the glue came out and I'm sitting there before practice with the glue gun trying to get this stuff to stick. And, you know, that didn't work. So now it's onto the crazy glue because as a high school kid in the 90s, you don't know what proper adhesives to use. You're just, anything sticky around the house is hope it holds till the next skate.
For sure. I know my padding fell out the other day because I didn't use enough glue. So, you know, it's just little things like that.
Yeah. Well, that makes me feel better that somebody who actually does refurbishing still has the same issues as the rest of us of the padding coming out when we don't want it to.
And the one difference between me is a lot of these painters, they're not going to take time to refurbish a helmet. You know, they just want a helmet. They want you to buy them a brand new helmet, send it. So all they got to do is sand off the clear and start painting. Where, you know, I'm not adding that extra money into it. You know, send me whatever helmet. If it's got a crack in it, I'll fix it. You know, a lot of times it doesn't take a lot to fix these cracks. Maybe just a little epoxy, a little sanding. Yeah. And, you know, and these guys are ready to go out and buy new helmets, you know, for these painters. And it's a lot of them don't do that much anymore. Yeah. So I try to still be that guy. Okay, send me your helmet, you know, and I don't care what condition it's in. I'll sand it all the way down if I have to.
Yeah. Well, and I've talked to some painters and, you know, I think some of them, it's not that they don't want to, it's just, they have enough business. They don't have to. You know, that's what one fellow I talked to, that was his feeling about it. I do like following the Warwick Instagram page because they still do some of those refurbishes. And I like seeing the gruesome before pictures and then the after where it looks like they just went and bought a brand new helmet, you know? Yeah. And for the most part, they're not painting them other than a clear, you know, a white or a black, but it's fun to see those before and afters. Those guys have had the masks for, you know, 15, 20 years and don't want to give it up. They're going to keep using it. Yeah.
I just finished a Coverly that I'm in the process of refurbing. So, I mean, it's sitting up on my shelf.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing looked like a bomb went off on it, you know? Yeah. And it's signed inside by Mike Richter. It was signed on the top by Mike Richter. but we decided to go in a different direction.
Okay.
So I had to sand it all back down and start right from the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's going to go for a paint job with a different painter that does a lot of the Mike Richter stuff.
Okay.
So it can get signed again.
Very cool. That Richter mask was one of my favorite back in the day, just because he kept the same, like a lot of those goalies, same look. It changed here and there over the years, very subtly. I think as a fan, I didn't notice it until years later, as I'd be looking at different, Richter hockey cards or something and see, oh, this is a little different here. Yeah. You didn't realize that he was getting different ones that often.
It was just a subtle little changes he did every year.
Yeah. So painting a mask takes quite a bit of creative talent. Have you always been the creative type, the kid that was, drawing in his notebooks when he should have been paying attention to the teacher? Was that always something you had in you, and this was just a new medium that kind of blended that love of art in hockey?
Oh yeah, for sure. But I did a lot of brush painting.
Okay.
And a lot of drawing. But I never picked up an airbrush until I bought one. It was just when I was growing up, they really weren't a big deal. Like, oh, you airbrush something. Yeah. But you never really heard of it. You never saw it.
Yeah. There was the one guy at the mall with the t-shirt shop that had the airbrush.
Yeah, the t-shirt. That's all you ever saw. Nobody ever put that 2 and 2 together. Oh, let's do that on a helmet till years later.
Yep.
And I knew I could do this by myself, but just, building everything so where I can have all the right tools, like all the right stencils, all right. Like I have a vinyl cutter to help me cut my designs. I'm starting now doing things a little different where I'm drawing on the mask itself. I'm just progressing every day and just trying to get better.
Yeah.
And, that's where people are starting to look for me now. And, like once a month, because I have so many helmets that, with the pandemic going on, there was no money. So I have all these masks sitting here. So I decided to start doing raffles every month for these masks.
Yeah.
So I would only include like 50 people, no big, huge, like $25 a shot.
Yeah.
But the guy just won the Rask mask, and that was a pro-choice mask. They're $2,200 brand new. That $25 it cost him.
Right.
And he put it right on his shelf, because he's not playing yet again.
Yeah, there's a lot of us in that boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea. And a way for some folks to maybe get a replica mask that they always wanted for something they can afford at the same time. So
absolutely.
When you're not playing hockey, when you're not refurbishing masks, one of the things I like to delve into at the podcast is, what do you do away from those two passions? You mentioned 5 kids. I'm sure that keeps you pretty busy with their activities. But what do you try and do to unwind outside of those two passions?
I work a full-time job. I work for Walmart, so I'm a manager at Walmart, and, I work 60 hours a week plus.
Yeah.
Trying to do this and handle the kids. Luckily, only one of the kids is young now. She's 12. Everybody else is 20 and up. So I don't have to really worry about them.
Yeah.
But just the 12-year-old. So
yeah. Well, she's getting into that fun age where, as I say with my 14-year-old daughter, she's catching emotions.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. It's a very fun, interesting time. Middle school. We've been telling my daughter that this past year, the fact that she's been distance learning during middle school is a blessing in disguise. She'll never realize that she doesn't have to be around other kids.
A lot of terrible kids in middle school.
Yeah.
My daughter, they go to school half day for 4 hours a day.
Okay.
Over here. And then they come home and they do the rest on the computer because they're not allowed to eat lunch at school.
Okay.
So that's their routine.
Yeah,
so it's not all computer anymore.
Mine, I think it was last week or the week before, just went back to full-time in person. Prior to that, it was hybrid, one day in, one day out, so that they had half the number of kids in class. But yeah, as a parent, I'm really happy to have them back in school full time.
Yeah,
for,
it was a
many
lot
years.
on the kids.
Yeah,
I think
well,
it took a toll on them more than the adults,
oh, absolutely. And it's a toll that I think a lot of people overlooked. And then once it started coming to light, it was almost like they felt it was too late and they had to double down against it just to feel like they were right. But yeah, it's great to have them back in school. And selfishly, my wife and I both work from home. So having the four of us doing video calls at the same time was a real strain on the Wi-Fi, the bandwidth. You know, there were times where it's like, I'm sorry, there's four of us on calls right now. I'm going to be choppy. And they're like, we get it.
Yeah, we had one in college. She just moved out and she was doing her work. Then my wife works from home and my youngest daughter doing schoolwork. So it was a lot with the internet. I got to use this computer. I got to use that computer. I need a computer in my room.
Yeah.
So,
you know, it's bad enough during the summertime. You know, we got to tell my son, like, you can play your video games during the workday, but you can't play any of them online. And he's like, well, why not? It's like, because it sucks up the entire bandwidth. Like, I don't care that you want to play NHL all day with your buddies online, but do it on the weekends. Like,
yeah,
I need to
sure.
have this work video call so that you can have the internet to play that game. Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's same here. You gotta twist your arm sometime.
Yeah, you know, I think them actually doing school from home and seeing how the strain on the bandwidth can really slow things down, they start to understand it now, which is good. We'll see if they remember that come summer break, but who knows?
It's coming soon.
Yeah, I think my kids are going to spend a lot of time up at my in-laws' cabin at the lake, so that then we don't have to worry about it, and they'll be outside, you know, in the lake rather than online. So that's even better.
And my 12-year-old, she's getting all the benefits now because we're going to Sweden in August.
Oh,
and so she gets to go with us. The
yeah.
older one goes like, oh, well, we want to go. We're not paying for you too. You're 20 years old. You can pay for yourself if you want to go.
Yeah.
So she's starting to reap all the benefits of being the youngest in the house.
Yeah. My dad used to joke, and as we were getting close to turning 18, he'd be like, you hear that sound? And we're like, what sound? He goes, the sound of the well drying up. Once you turn 18, now me and my sister, we both went on to college, and they helped us out during that time for sure. But he would always joke, that's the sound of the well drying up. So yeah, we weren't shocked when, mom and dad would go on a vacation and we weren't invited. It was like, well, no, you're off at school. Oh, I still would have liked to have gone. Well, you'll have plenty of chances once you get a job when you're done with school.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You'll have the full life ahead of you. We're getting towards the midpoint of ours. Now it's time for us to have fun for all this hard work.
Yeah. And there were even times where my mom and dad took vacations without us growing up because, they were trying to find different parts of the country that they might want to retire in. And they're like, well, we want to see what it's like without you. So we're going to go without you. And we're like, okay, point taken. Yeah.
I always tell my wife, so let's move to Idaho or Montana. And she's like, no, absolutely not. I'm not leaving here. That's why we bought the house here. So she wants to stay right here in Jersey.
See, that's something you don't hear of too often. People wanting to stay up in the northern climates. I know my folks headed south there in North Carolina, and it even gets too cold down there at times for their liking, but they like the people.
It's kind of funny here. Like, we got 2 snowstorms this year and that's it. It's over and done with. We got spring-like weather right now, 65 every day, and the snow came and went. It was like 1 month of cold.
Yeah. We had a wind chill of 10 this morning when I was walking the dogs.
Yeah. Nothing even crazy like that. I don't even think it got down in the 20s this year.
Yeah.
If it did, maybe 1 or 2 days. No ice, no pond ice by me.
That's crazy. Whereas we had the backyard rink all winter. Which I think it was Monday. I went and pulled the last of the tarp off of where we had the rink because there was still chunks of ice on there. So this week was kind of ice out, as we like to say in Minnesota. So if I know you've listened to the podcast a little bit, so I end every podcast with a list of 10 questions. I'm starting to do better of leaving myself time for them because I've learned they don't take 2-3 minutes. They take up a good portion of time. So what's the craziest coaching moment you've experienced in your playing days?
In my playing days, definitely was in high school. I had the worst coaches in high school. And, when you have bad coaching and bad teams, it just leads up to just pure terrible every game.
Yeah.
But I had my coach fire a slap shot and hit me in the back of the head.
Oof.
I can never forget that. And I wasn't even a goalie. I was standing at the blue line. I was just forward. And just stupid things like that you think of, like, I can't believe I survived that,
Yeah.
And that's always one thing that always stuck in my mind. This terrible coach just doing terrible things.
Yeah. I remember in high school, my freshman, sophomore year in league play, we went to combined 138-1. So we weren't very good. The bummer was we had a lot of talent. We just weren't very good as a team. And our coach picked up on that pretty quickly. Fortunately for us, he was also studying for his doctorate in psychology. So he found a way for us to still have fun despite being as bad as we were.
Yeah.
He put those psychology tools to work. That's for sure with us.
We were always terrible, except for my junior and senior year. We were okay. But when we played teams like Bricktown and, when I was in 9th grade, I played against Jimmy Dowd. So I think he scored like 10 goals on us. So, that's how bad we were. And that guy was insane back in the day.
Yeah. I still want to go back and find some of the old score sheets. I played against Timmy Stapleton in high school. And I know he was bound to have scored a few on me, but I don't recall letting in too many against his school. So I'd be interested to go back and look and see how many of his I let in.
Yeah, we had one guy in high school that probably scored 4 or 5 goals a game against us every time we played in Bayonne and never really made anything of himself.
Yeah.
Was high school player, was just crazy good and just never went nowhere.
We see that a lot in so many sports. And then you got the kid who is that 4th line player who makes it to the NHL just because,
pure heart.
Heart, they see the game differently or some of them, they just mature later. It happens goofy that way. So this is an interesting question for you. What's your favorite all-time goalie mask?
My favorite, it's got to be Ron Hextall. I still love that Ron Hextall mask. It was just so simple.
Which one?
The half and half with the wings on the side.
Okay. Yep.
It was just so simple and just such a beautiful mask.
Well,
I grew up a huge Flyers fan. So
it's one of those masks when you think of the Flyers, that's one of the first ones that pops into your mind. Pele Lindbergh's, you have that one. For me, his one when he came back to the Flyers with the Liberty Bell, and it was kind of that black background. That one always sticks out to me as well as one of his great masks.
I get asked a lot to paint that mask, and it's just something I just haven't painted. I painted some things like it, I'll add my own spin to it, but I just won't do it exactly like his, because I just kind of, if you want something that looks like it, I can do that, but I really don't like doing exact replicas. Yeah. That's why I have guys that could do that for me,
Yeah. Yep. So the next question, what's your favorite rink that you've played at?
My favorite rink is South Mountain Arena in West Orange. It's you see the rink a lot in commercials and you just don't know it. But if you lived in West Orange, you know the rink and how it developed over the years. Mm-hmm. And it's like Patrick Kane's been at that rink, Jonathan Taves doing NHL commercials. There's all kinds of NHL commercials, figure skating commercials, all filmed in that rink. It was just always a fun rink to play in. And they added a second rink when I was probably in high school. And it's been changed names 3 times, but it's still, you go there and you still remember the zoo sitting right behind it. You know, we had the Turtleback Zoo right behind it.
Yeah.
And we always go for lunch when we were at hockey school in the summers and just walk back and go to the zoo for free because we were in the hockey school. So
that's
that was the
awesome.
one big thing.
That's awesome. So the next question, what's your favorite stick that you've used?
Favorite stick that I've used all time, a Torspo. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes. Yeah.
Those,
I think it was Hobby Bolin was using them in Chicago towards the end of his career for a while too.
yeah, that was my favorite player stick. My favorite goalie stick is Sherwood.
Okay.
I just broke my last Sherwood, and you just really can't find many of them anymore.
Yeah. Last time I was at Pure Hockey, they had a few of them. It's almost like they're starting to bring them back again.
I went to we have Monkey Sports over here.
Okay.
They're kind of wiped out on goalie equipment. It's like nobody's making anything. You know, there wasn't a big, huge pad selection. I'm looking for a new chested arms because I keep getting stingers, and they only had mediums, you know, and they only had like 3 or 4 different kinds. It wasn't full, you know, like I could wear a large or extra large to look a little bigger, you know, but they were just kind of empty. And the sticks, I ended up buying a Warrior.
Yep.
You know, because I'm not going to pay $300 for a goalie stick.
I'm with you. I'm using a Warrior Swagger Pro right now, and I really like the stick. I was surprised. It was just the only foam core they had at the time when I went to go get it. And as Bob Ross would say, happy accident. It's turned out to be a pretty good stick.
Yeah, like I actually went down. I was using a 26 size paddle, but I'm only 5'8", and
Okay.
I went down to a 23.5 size
boy.
paddle, and huge. But it made all the difference during the game. Like when you're down in that VH, instead of, you know, your stick, you can have your paddle flat on the rink. You know, they weren't jamming nothing between the stick and my pad. You know, they weren't getting through the stick, let alone my stick and my pad.
Yep.
You know, it made a huge difference. Maybe it felt better in my stance.
Yeah. I've always used bigger paddles. I think I got a 27-inch paddle right now, but I had the realization, I think it was the last podcast, where it's because my very first stick that I owned that was an association was a Titan, and it was a senior stick. And here I am, a squirt, using a senior stick. So my elbow's up there like this, and I just got used to having that arm up high on my blocker side, that now I think that's why I still use really tall sticks. Yeah,
and I saw myself for the first time in a picture down in a butterfly, and like you said, my arm was straight, and there's this huge hole. Like, so, and that's because my stick, and it wasn't even flat on the ice. Yeah. So that all closed up once I got that. 3 inches, 2.5 inches makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that, the stick flat and the arm like this, because of when I was learning how to play goalie and the Quebec butterfly was the big thing. I was still taught, keep my hands out in front of me, but when you're down, angle that blade so that as it hits the blade, it's going to come up and hit you in the belly. So even when I go down, my arm doesn't come up like this. It just, a little bit of the wrist, it stays where it's at, but the blade of my stick, instead of being here, comes out here. And now that puck's coming up and hit me in the chest if it hits the stick. Or it's going over my shoulder into the net. There is that option too.
Yeah, this lowered everything for me. I couldn't believe it was such a big change, even though I was using new pads that night too.
Yeah.
Plus, the new stick, but it all kind of complemented itself.
Yeah, I've tried smaller sticks, and I don't know, it just didn't work for me. But that's awesome that it worked for you, and it was just one of those, that's what they had, so you had to go with it, and boom, here you are.
Yeah, for sure. Huge.
So what is your favorite youth hockey memory?
Youth hockey memory. I used to play West Orange at the South Mountain Arena for the Essex County Chiefs, and I don't remember what happened. My dad got angry at one of the coaches because he wouldn't let me play up or something. I don't remember what it was. and he pulled me off that team. And I went down to Newark at the time. It was called Ironbound Hockey. And it was like, oh, you never want to go to Ironbound. Oh my God, the rough and tumble Ironbound, you're going to go down there and get a beating. And I think the year that I spent down there was probably the best year I had playing hockey, because they did play a different style. Like, they taught us how to check, we were in there, and that was just my favorite year of all time, was playing down there. And then the rink got destroyed, so the next year they were closed down. Oh, so I had to go. So I had to go back to the Chiefs. But that year kind of molded me as a player with the coaches that I had. It was everybody from Staten Island and New York that came and played there.
And I know what you mean about the teams that play a little more physical, and other teams don't like to play them. I played high school hockey in what's known as the Chicago Catholic Hockey League, and it's known, at least back in the day, was known for being a rough league. Even though we were all a bunch of Catholic schoolboys, we weren't very nice on the ice. There were quite a few fights and everything else. And then when I finished college, I was coaching up here in Minnesota, and there was a Christmas tournament where one of the schools from the Chicago Catholic Hockey League came up, and they're just out there beating the daylights out of everybody. And some kid looks at the ref. He's like, "Aren't you going to call anything on him?" He goes, "What? They're just hitting." He's like, "They're hitting clean. They're, pushing it out the way of their goalie." He said, "Yeah, it's rough, but they're playing by the rules." It's just like, what do you want me to call on them?
That was where the game was going. And, you had to grow up then, so you got to grow up or take a beat, and that was it.
Yeah. So the next question, what's the best chirp you've heard on the ice, in the locker room, directed towards you, said by you? What's the best chirp?
Oh God, I don't even know about that one. I can't even tell you that one, because I've just been all kinds of names, everything. It's just depending on where you played, some kids opened their mouths, some kids didn't, so there's really no specific one I could really think of.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's fair. And then there's always the ones that we all remember, but we know we can't repeat.
We didn't have like a Letterkenny giving us all these ideas back in the day. We had to come up with our own ideas then.
Yeah.
So
ours were much more hurtful and get to the point and call you names you don't want to repeat in front of your mom.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what's the worst post-game beer you've had?
Oh God. I would have to say Amstel Light. That was 2 seasons ago, championship game. The guy brought the Amstel Light, and I was just like, out of all the beer that you could have brought, you brought the Amstel Light.
That's not a terrible beer, but for a championship game, there's better options.
Way better options. Because, we were taking shots before the game, and now the beer at the end doesn't, add up to anything.
I mean, in Jersey, he could have at least picked up a Yingling or something.
Oh my God. And I know Guinness, something good.
Yeah. Well, Guinness, after a game, I love Guinness. That's my all-time favorite beer, Guinness on tap. But after a game, that's a little heavy, unless it's at the rink bar where it's on tap. But if they bring it in the can or the bottle, it's like, no, what else do you have?
Oh, it's always after the rink, after the hockey game, over to the bar to get the Guinness on tap. Guinness is very big here in Jersey.
Yeah. Well, if they have it on tap, if they have it on tap, then I'm getting it. That's my, as a good Irish kid, that is my favorite beer.
Yeah.
So when you tape your stick, do you go heel to toe or toe to heel?
Heel to toe.
Okay, you're like most goalies then. I like to ask that question to find out who the oddballs are and go toe to heel.
Because you never know really where you want to end on it, because it depends on where you're starting in the back. Every tape job's different. I'm not one of those guys who has that same tape job every time. I just tape my stick and go.
I'm that guy where it's the same every time. but I also don't tape my stick, but maybe 4 times tops. It's usually right before the fall season begins and right before the winter season begins. And then if I'm filling in enough in the summertime, I may retape it then. But
yeah, I can't even remember the last time I taped my Sherwood.
Yeah.
I've probably been using them for 2 years.
Yep.
So never put tape on them, never changed it.
Yeah. When I was in college playing, it was every game I would retape my stick. But we also had unlimited tape, and sticks were 3 for $20. So it wasn't that big of a deal then.
Yeah.
And it was something to do in the locker room as you were hanging out with the fellas,
Yep. And they don't have that no more. It's like 3 for $400. And it's like, that's a deal now.
Well, when I was playing college hockey, that was kind of a perk of playing, is we got severely discounted sticks. That was, I think, their way of keeping us from just walking into the stick room and taking whatever, trying different ones all the time, as well as just breaking them out of pure frustration. It was their way of keeping us honest there. When you play, what's your favorite number to wear?
I wear number 32.
And why?
When I was in 9th grade, because when I was growing up, I wore number 12 or number 22.
Okay.
So in 9th grade, I was the smallest guy on the team. I was like 5'4", 120 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So all the jerseys were way too big for me. So the only number that fit was number 32. And I've kept it to this day. That's the only number I've worn to this day. My wife just bought me a charm just not too long ago, number 32, to go on my chain.
That's cool.
So it's something I'll always wear. That's my number, 32.
See, you can't really be from Jersey if you don't have the gold chain, right?
Yeah, well, I have the 2, so it's great. That's the one thing. That's where 32 hockey comes from,
Yeah.
That's why I named it 32 hockey. So everything's got that 32 twist in it for me.
Makes sense. When I was playing 5th grade football, I had number 1 because I was the smallest kid on the team. I hadn't hit my growth spurt yet, and that was the only jersey that fit me. And my dad used to joke that I was so small that it looked like I was number 11, because you were seeing both the number from the front and back at the same time. So the final question I have is, what advice do you have? Usually I say for young goaltenders, but I think I might change this. What advice do you have for hockey players picking up the position later on in life, like yourself?
Watch a lot of video, watch a lot of NHL games. You have, I think watching it live and seeing how these goaltenders are doing it, and then just trying to incorporate it into each game.
Mm-hmm.
And, like that, when I first tried to learn how to do the back and forth slide, when you're not doing it with a post and you're trying to learn that, you see these goalies, they do it, they go back and forth outside the net, and it looks so easy, but that is probably the hardest thing I ever had to learn.
Yep.
But it's just practice, just watch and practice and just keep on doing it until you learn how to do it, get strong at it.
Yeah. Have you watched any of those in-goal pro reads that they have on their platform now?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. They sit down with a goalie, pro goalie, and they'll look at different plays that they've encountered, and they'll go through, what were they thinking, in these certain situations? What was your save selection and why? Honestly, I need to bite the bullet and pay for the paid subscription for in-goal, because it's dirt cheap for what they give you, and those pro reads are worth every penny of it.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. So we've talked quite a bit. Where can folks find you if they want to possibly get a mask refurbished or painted, or just follow you?
I'm here on Instagram at 32 hockey.
Yep.
I'm also on Facebook as the Goalie Masks Guy with an S on the mask. So, and 32hockey.com is my internet. So,
Yeah.
and
we'll
most
sure
of my stuff mostly on Facebook. So
I'll
the
be
Goalie
sure
Mask Guy is
go on.
sorry.
I was gonna say I'll be
Goalie
sure to
Masks.
put that stuff in the show notes too, so that people don't have to search if they're listening in the car or whatnot. They could just go there and then click on it at a later time.
Yeah, the Goalie Mask Guy is the best place to reach me. That's where I have all my raffles once a month.
Okay.
And I got some good and exciting stuff coming, new helmets coming. I can paint or I can have it painted, whatever. Like people ask me for, Lundquist stuff. I'll paint it close, but it won't be exact.
Yep.
The Rangers Man Cave, I've painted a couple helmets exact for him because it's part of the Rangers Man Cave. His place is crazy with Ranger stuff. He's even been on MSG as a commercial. So I had to do it as perfect as I possibly could.
Yeah.
It's going to be seen on TV. So, but I have a lot of exciting, especially since I joined VRT, they're making masks better and better. I can do any design. It just takes time. It could be a week, could be a month, but it could be 2 months, just depending on what the person wants or what the person needs.
Yeah.
And what levels they're playing. Because, having the right helmet that you're not going to get hurt in. Like 2 months ago, I had a guy call me about painting a mask. I quoted him $400 for what he wanted.
Yep.
And when he sent me the mask, it was just a Bauer Enemy 4, and his son was 12 years old. So I'm the kind of guy that I'd rather be safe. And I said, I have this 960 just laying here, and $500 I'll throw in the mask. And it's little things like that would make me more happy knowing the kid's safe,
right?
Than having him wear that mask that you could end up getting hurt, especially at his level.
Yeah, well, we're talking the head, and it baffles me that so many people will go cheap on the mask.
Yeah,
but then they'll go brand new custom pads every year. And it's like,
makes no sense.
The mask. When I was talking to Don Strauss and he was talking about, coming up with the armadillo mask, he prided himself on the fact that he only ever had one model, the top tier, because he didn't see the point in having a lesser tier helmet. It was, you should always have the best protection for your head. And I'm a firm believer in that. And that's why I'm just playing beer league these days. But when I went and bought my last mask, I went with a pro model mask because I only get one brain and I've already done enough damage to it playing hockey.
Yeah. I mean, I got a concussion about 10 years ago wearing a Vaughn helmet, one of the lower Vaughns. And I went the next week before I started playing again, and I upped the mask that I got, but now I won't put anything else on but a pro mask.
Yeah.
I've had a couple pro masks made for me by Sean Schroeder, and his masks are incredible also and incredibly protective, but that's the most important thing. Go with the cheaper pads, more expensive helmet.
Absolutely.
People don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. That's what's saving their life there.
Yeah, they're not going to get the cheaper nut cup, so why are you going to get the cheaper helmet?
Exactly.
So, well, Dave, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. I'm glad we got the chance to connect. I'm glad you reached out to me on Instagram.
Yeah, man.
That's what I've loved about starting the podcast and sharing is now, other goalies are slowly starting to reach out and be like, hey, I want to chat. I've got a story, because we all have a story. In fact, there's I believe he's a bantam I'm going to be talking to shortly. And, the discussion is really going to be about, what's it like being a youth hockey player through the pandemic? How has that affected your game, your psyche, and all of that? So it's fun that goalies are starting to reach out and wanting to be a part of this as well. So thank you for doing that. Yeah,
no, thank you. I appreciate it. This is a forum that I've been, trying to get into, because I'm trying to get the word out about these masks. I spend a lot of time, working, and I spend a lot of time on these masks, and, I just want to get them out there. I just want people to be safe. I want to put out a good product, There's still a lot of stuff out there that people can go and buy off the shelf that I can produce a better helmet than what they're paying for a crappier helmet, you know?
Yep.
So for what you pay for an Enemy 4, I can get you into a fully fiberglass mask.
Yeah.
You know, it may not have every little paint thing you want on it, but at least your head will be protected.
Yeah. And, you know, I think you're starting to see more and more goalies when, you know, at least at the beer league level, when you see another goalie with a cheap mask like that, we're starting to speak up to each other and be like, dude, you got to get a better mask than that. It's vital. You know, there's a reason they're called Widowmakers.
Yes. You know, the league I play in, there's probably 3 or 4 goalies that have like Enemy 4 helmets. I'm like, man, you got to get out of helmets. Just come over to my house, try on helmets. I have 50 of them. Just come try one on. I'll make you a deal just so you don't get hurt.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. It's maddening sometimes when you see guys out there skating. You know, and a couple of times I've talked to a goalie that's got one, and you know, they're like when you first started, where it's like, well, I just picked up stuff. I didn't know what I was getting. I just wanted to get out here. It's like, okay, well, the first piece of equipment you need to upgrade is your helmet. And a couple of weeks later, you see them out on the ice again. They got a new helmet, and it's like, all right, they listened. I'm glad.
Yeah. That's just the most important piece. But you could take stingers anywhere, get broken bones, but you don't want to keep getting concussion after concussion.
No,
just not worth it.
You know, I joke and I say I've had 6 concussions, but I always hold up 7 fingers to see if people catch that one. And most of them were from hockey. And, you know, part of it was putting myself in situations I shouldn't have been in by the way I was coming out to play the puck. So it's just now I'm a lot more cautious in the way I play. And I think at times my teammates would like me to come out and stop that puck being rung around the net. And I'm going, nope, not anymore.
No. No. It's not worth it coming out because these guys will run you over because they don't have to skate, or, you know, they just can't stop on time. And next thing you know, you're in the board. So I just stay in my net. I get run into enough just in the net, you know, let alone coming out of the net and taking that chance.
Yeah. You know, my last concussion, it was in a beer league game. And I was down, you know, playing the puck, and some guy's coming in and he loses an edge. You know, it's total accident. Nothing. I don't fault him or anything, but the knees come right into the head, and that's all it took. And I knew I had a concussion during the game because I've had enough of them where I know the symptoms. That I've done my homework. Is like, okay, I need to focus and, you know, get home. Luckily, it was a mild one where I felt comfortable getting home. But even hindsight, looking back, I've kicked myself for not looking at my teammates going, one of you has to drive me home, because we got enough of them that carpool and live, you know, 3 blocks from me. Is like, I should have done that particular night. But when you have a concussion, you're not thinking straight, you know. But again,
I just got a concussion not too long ago, but I was actually skiing, and the problem, it was my second time, but I have the snow skates, and I don't know if you've ever been on them or seen them, but as a hockey player, the control that you have, it's something different. Like, you just feel the control because it's just like skating.
Yeah.
And the first time I didn't fall, and I went out and bought a ski helmet, you know, just in case, you know, and then I put a helmet on, and I still got a concussion because I hit the snow so hard, but because I was being stupid, because, you know, I felt like, oh, well, I'm in control of these skates. Next thing you know, I'm inside the, you know, laying on the going, oh my God, I got another concussion.
Well, and
that was it for the year.
Sometimes, you know, you get that piece of protective equipment and you think you're invincible, and you take risks you probably wouldn't have had you not had a helmet on too. I know Mike Ditka keeps trying to start that debate of, in football, maybe they're too protected and they need to go back to the days of leather helmets to bring that risk back, so that they think about what they're doing before they do it.
Right. I know those guys don't go after headshots like crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. But again, Dave, I appreciate you taking time out of your day. You know, working a full-time job, painting masks, and having a couple kids at home. The time is limited. I know that. So I appreciate you carving out some to chat with me, and we'll be in touch.
All right. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, yes. And so what I'll do now is I'll do some minor editing and I'll get things ready to go. The episode will go out Tuesday morning, so not much lag
Okay.
time. When I started, I was doing 3 or 4 a week, and then having them scheduled so far out, and it was almost creating burnout, in that I felt like I had to get them edited right away, boom, like that. And so I made it a point in 2021 to record one a week, and it be the one that launches the next week.
I got you.
There's been a few exceptions where somebody's like, "This is the only time I've got to record." Okay, I can record 2 in a week and take a week off, type of deal. But then the other benefit too is it gets to launch pretty quick after we talk too.
That's great. I
So-
enjoy you having me. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And I'm just doing the best I can here. I just want to get my stuff out there.
Yeah, that's all we're all trying to do, right?
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
and I think that's what's great about the goalie community is we're all there to help each other.
Yes.
So
I would rather see somebody protected than, out there getting hurt. I just
Yeah.
can't see it, especially because I'm almost 50 years old and, I've seen a lot of it,
Yep.
a lot of these guys are still young. They don't know what they're doing. It's just one little word could change somebody's life,
Exactly. My team, I'm one of the younger guys and I'm 40. And we just say, it doesn't matter what the scoreboard says. If we all come out of this game uninjured, it's a victory.
Yeah.
Because we have beer to drink in the locker room after this thing. So we can't get hurt. So
That's always the fun part.
yeah.
Can't wait for that to come back.
That's what I miss the most. There's one group I skate with filling in. It's called For the Love of Puck, where it's a lot of pickup hockey. And he always brings beer for the parking lot afterwards. Well, in the wintertime, it usually is in the locker room. We braved the cold and had the parking lot beers and the good Minnesota winters this year. Is like, we still need that. Did we have 3 or 4? Well, I never have more than 2, but did guys have 3 or 4 beers? No, it was 1 or 2 beers, and then we retreated to the warmth of our cars.
I got you. Yeah, I've never been to Minnesota, but that's one of my bucket lists for sure.
Well, one of the benefits though is the beer stayed cold the whole time. We didn't have to worry about it getting warm as we stood out there. Yes.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, again, thank you and have a good rest of your evening.
You too, man. Thank you.
All right. Take it easy.
All right, bye.
Bye. It was fun talking to Dave and getting to hear his story. I'm always intrigued by goalies who gravitate to the position as adults to understand how they pick up on the technical aspects of the game, where those of us who started as kids either worked on it in practice or were lucky enough to have goalie coaches. Be sure to check out 32hockey.com. 32 is spelt out, not using numbers. Or find Dave on Facebook at Goalie Masks Guy, mask being plural, and on Instagram at Blades032 to find out more about his mask refurbishing and painting. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube simply by searching for Washed Up Goalie. Visit washedupgoalie.com for some great hockey-related content, my beer league hockey video highlights when I'm able to find a skate during this pandemic, and of course, all podcast episodes. If you want some Washed Up Goalie or Tendy Talk apparel, be sure to visit my Threadless shop by clicking the merchandise link on my website. I recently revamped the site, adding some items as well as some goalie-inspired silhouette pieces. If you like this podcast, go listen to the BLPA Big Show. It's the OG BLPA Podcast Network show. The BLPA Big Show is a couple of beer league players chatting about beer league hockey, draft experience tournaments, and exploits from around the game of hockey. The show is hosted by Nick Jones and Trish Dangles, with other co-hosts filling in occasionally. Nick just returned home to Calgary after hosting a number of weekend draft experience tournaments in the United States, so I'm sure the next few episodes will have some stories about what happened at those tournaments. I need to thank the band The Zambonis for allowing me to use their music on my podcast. You can download their music on iTunes or listen wherever you stream music from. I'm working on lining up other goalies to talk to. If you are a goalie or have connections to a goalie who I should talk to, shoot me an email at washedupgoalie39@gmail.com or send me a DM on social media. Let's not forget, if you're a brand who wants to sponsor the show, be sure to reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk about opportunities. And finally, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment on the podcast platform you're listening on. It's a quick action on your part that helps others find Tendy Talk. Until next time, keep your stick on the ice and your body square to the puck.